Welcome to John and Lauren's
Sick
Christmas
movie review.
Lifetime movie reviews. The episode tonight, episode 2, is Reindeer Games Homecoming.
This one was a bit more of a treat than the last one. The last one was pretty rough. This one was much
good.
more tolerable.
It was tolerable. Let me read you the description. Sparks fly between a Vermont.
Okay, that makes sense.
Between a Vermont biology teacher and her high school crush as they compete in a holiday fundraising tradition. Okay, we're gonna get to my comment already, but not yet.
Okay.
So they're in Vermont. We didn't know the entire movie where they were from because one said Indiana, one said Poughkeepsie.
Yeah. So the main character is Chase. He's kind of a movie star, lives in LA and flies back home for the holidays. And
his love interest is Mac, and she is April Kepner from Grey's Anatomy, who we both like, so that was more enjoyable already.
Yeah. So she's I guess they introduce her. She's a teacher at the school, doing science stuff. The guy walks into the school and he sees, look at our famous alumni, and it's this cabinet and shrine of
his work.
And the one thing that he noticed right off the bat was a picture from winning the science fair with Mac, and you could see, like, the way the picture was taken, he's staring at her very lovingly, and she's like all excited, "Yay, I won!" And
we won.
Yeah. So they're already setting the stage of that whole, this was a relationship, and now it's, welcome back to Christmasville.
Like 30 years later or something.
Yeah. So they reintroduce themselves and meet start introducing all the characters. It's interesting because this movie, as opposed to the last one, actually used the characters that they introduced. It wasn't like, here's Ma and Pa at the beginning of the movie and then did nothing with them throughout the rest of the movie until the end when they're like, oh, Ma and Pa showed up. Merry Christmas. They introduced one of the kids in her class is
the movie star's nephew.
Yeah, Chase's nephew. And so they introduced them all doing some kind of last day science class, fun time, Jeopardy style game show. And class ends and Chase walks in and she gets all embarrassed and looks away, and he's like, wait a second, I recognize you.
You're pre-med. Which? Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah, he calls her pre-med because she was smart, I guess, and that was her nickname.
And she was going to go to med school.
Yeah, and she's like, oh, and you're Fancy Pants, because that was his nickname. So they reconnect, they chat, and then they start talking about the Reindeer Games. And
an annual tradition which her father, who was the fire chief, and his two BFFs, I don't know if they started it, but they've won every year.
Well, Mac and they've won a lot. So they were talking about it, and one of Mac's friends is the Lord of, or the ceremony host for the Reindeer Games,
which is just a bunch of
very much trying to live vicariously through her love life. He says that in the show,
but that's just a side thing.
He's like, get with Chase because I've always wanted you to do this, and he's hot and all that kind of normal banter between friends.
But obviously. Anyway, so she is part of the Reindeer Games with her father's two best friends because her father passed away like 5 years ago
Yeah.
after rescuing people from a fire. So she's with these two older guys, and Chase comes to support his niece and nephew because there's like 6 teams in the reindeer games. And of course, their third player ate too much candy corn and got sick. And lo and behold, Chase joined their team. So the first challenge was they had to dive into freezing water.
Yeah, the polar bear plunge.
Polar bear plunge. And then the next one, he is like worried about getting a role because I guess he hasn't had a role in a while or something.
Yeah, he was. They briefly touched on it. He's trying to get some kind of big movie role that will make him a A-list superstar, and he wants that because right now he's like a sci-fi, action like con. He's a con superstar. So he was in a couple of successful action movies, and now he's just doing like convention circuits and stuff like that because he's not doing anything. He briefly talked about it. He was like, I want to stop doing conventions. Right before he left his LA home to drive or to fly back.
So then April Kepner, or Mac, is very beloved by the whole community because she volunteers a lot and she goes to the hospital, and she lives right next door to the
fire department,
which that would be loud.
She's a volunteer paramedic. Just your typical person who's very connected to the town and
do-gooder.
Yeah. So they start going through all these reindeer games, and it's just a bunch of silly things. Like they had to dress up in the theme of
the Christmas
Carol. So she dressed up like an astronaut to represent Christmas future, and he dressed up like
Ebenezer Scrooge
and and the second event was a race where they had to pull a
cart.
Pull a cart. So the teams of 3 had to race on the track and pull a cart, and the last 2 teams that were there were eliminated.
And then the next round, they had to carve an ice sculpture.
Yeah, they had to do an ice sculpture.
They only showed his.
So as they're doing all of this stuff, there's not much focus on the games. The games are obviously not an important part of the movie. It's just there to build the connection between the two. So these games are happening and the kids are doing stuff and the old people are doing stuff. And then these two who are on opposing teams just kind of manage to keep stumbling into each other in weird scenarios and getting closer and closer. The Chase's sister is pregnant, and she is noticing that as he's connecting more with Mac, they are he's becoming less connected or more in the moment. Yeah, more present, more in the moment, more enjoying his time there. Because at the beginning, he was very focused on, oh my God, let me check my email. Did I get a call? Do I have this role yet? Oh. So, yeah.
So also, she is obsessed with crossword puzzles and apparently keeps them in her back pocket at all times, along with a note from her deceased father who he wrote to her on Christmas Eve 5 years ago, but she's been too scared to open it. And so she basically says she's like happy living in a small town. She quit her residency in Boston after her father died, and What else?
Yeah, they had a moment where they were talking about how things have been going, and she said that when her father died, she abandoned her residency and came back to town. She's living in the house that he gifted her inheritance, and that
She's hanging out with his
she
friends.
yeah, she knows that she can accomplish more, but she's content with where she is, because all you need in life are some people that love you, and you know just something to tie you to the community. And he was talking about how amazed that he is to hear that from her, because he can't live like that, and he's amazed that someone could, and kind of building that conflict where they want to be together, but one is content with what they've got and the other wants more and wants more and wants more.
Yeah.
And so they continue with the Christmas games.
I don't even. Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so then the last one was like Donkey Ball or something they called it.
It was
And it was really like
Donkey Ball.
that's what they called it. They called it like Donkey Ball. Yes, it
It
was.
was just.
It was
It's just street hockey.
street hockey, but they
Yeah.
called it Donkey Ball because it was indoors.
They didn't call it Donkey Ball.
And so it was, of course, those two teams competing against each other. However,
Yeah, this was
his
for the finals.
agent flew to, I guess, Vermont
Yeah.
from LA, and she was like, "Oh, hey, I just wanted to tell you in person. I left my family on Christmas Eve to tell you this for 2 minutes, and then I'm flying back, that you did get the part, so you're going to Prague. And by the way, great job on like showing social media that you're like trying to connect with small town folk, because that is what pushed you into the directors wanting you."
Yeah.
And so Mac is like, oh, he
Yeah,
used us.
Max sitting on the sideline listening to this happen while they're trying to plan for the final minutes of overtime to see who's going to win the cup and win the reindeer games.
So she gets all pissed off, and
And the agent's parting words were, great job. Don't go falling in love with the local librarian, as
Yeah.
she walks away.
So
And Mac just gets pissed.
Mac gets pissed, and she rams his nephew. He flies across the room. That was amazing, actually.
This was quality Mighty Ducks level.
Which they even mentioned in the movie. Oh, wait, time out. We forgot the part where she almost delivered his sister's kid in the car.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, didn't that come after this?
No, it was before.
Oh. Well,
So-
yeah, so she gets pregnant. They have a little moment there. Go ahead.
Okay, so her
yeah.
water breaks, and of course, Mac is an almost doctor / volunteer paramedic. So she's about to deliver the kid in the car, and the little child boy, they make drive, and he's going through all these red lights, and the mom was like, "I'm so proud of you. You're doing a great job." And the movie star was like, "No, he's not." And we actually laughed out loud for that.
Yeah.
But of course, they made it there in time. It's a Christmas miracle that she has a little child, and blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
Okay, so back to the donkey games. So then Kepner is so pissed. She knocks over the child driver, and he flies across the room. One of the old guys trips over him or something and breaks his ankle or his arm.
He gets tripped by one of the other players on the other team
and she's
breaks his wrist.
Raging, and she goes, and this little plastic ball that's like yay big, she hits it hard, and it goes into the net past the movie star, and when he turns to like stop it, he bangs his head onto this metal pole, and this whole big gash in there, and he's like, "What? I don't understand." And then he falls over and needs 4 stitches later.
I don't understand how you managed to whiff on that whole section of the movie, because they literally replayed it later on.
They replayed it.
She hits him
on this
in
side.
the head.
No, but she hits him on this side, and then he turns and hits his head on the pole.
No, she hits him on this. He's leaning like this. She hits him on this side of the head. which knocks his head
It's
into the
it's a
pole.
little plastic
But
ball.
yeah.
And it's like this
So
big of a gash, and he passes out.
yeah, they basically, she blasts him in the head with the ball. He hits his head on the pole. They go to the hospital. He's very obviously, oh, whoops, you were obviously angry. What did I do?
And she was like, oh, nothing. And so then she was in their hospital's like prayer room. I forget what
Yeah.
they're called. Oh my god. But anyways, it doesn't matter. And so she's carrying around this letter from her father, and she's like, and he was like, I don't know, but I think your father, wants you to hear what he has to say. And she's like, but if I open it,
Well,
then I don't
wait.
have anything in the future for him to ever tell me. And so she gives it to him to open for her. And oh, by the way, he said this beforehand and I didn't even think of it. So her name is Mac, M-A-C, and then his name is Chase. And so like during the commercial, he's like, Mac and Chase, get it? Mac and cheese. And then literally in the next scene, the like master of ceremonies guy is like, macaroni and cheese. And we're like, but anyways, so then he opens the letter for her, and it's all like her father saying like, oh my gosh, you need to like live your life, don't forget about that, blah blah blah, like you're amazing, just dive in, don't be afraid to take chances.
Yeah.
And okay, so I will admit to you that that actually made me tear up because like how she says like she's trying to like live the same life to keep her like father alive, and she's like, but my father isn't alive.
Well, wait, you're missing the part. You're missing. So she briefly says there that she, before she opens the letter, she told him that she feels trapped, that she's living this life because she wants to stay close to her father,
Yeah.
who died, and that's what precipitated the whole you open this letter because I can't do it.
Yeah.
I'm So she admits that what she had said earlier was, being surrounded by nice people and everything is great, was not necessarily true. She was not feeling super great about her life. She kind of feels trapped, and she's just trying to live a life to preserve the memory of her dad.
Keep him alive. And okay, so these are supposed to be like fun reviews, but honestly, like that really resonated with me. And so again, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it was a touching moment. She reads the letter and it says, take chances, live your life, and she immediately goes, "Oh, I know what I have to do. Thanks. It's been real," and then just like dumps him and leaves.
Yeah.
And he's just like, "What?" And so they
She goes
this is getting a
home.
little long. So she goes home, and he ends up talking to all the other characters, like to his sister, who smacks him for being an idiot,
Yeah.
the son, or his nephew, the dad's friends,
And
the
he
master
wants
of ceremonies, and they all
help him plan this way
help.
to like
Yeah.
woo her. But while he's doing that, she is reapplying to finish her residency program in Boston.
Yeah.
So then, the friend comes over and he was like, you look like a mess. You need to get dressed. And so he picks out an outfit for her. And then her doorbell rings and there's a pillow. But
Yeah,
on
just
the
a pillow on the thing with a crossword puzzle in it. And
because
it
she likes
says,
crossword puzzles.
follow the hints, and then she figures out the crossword puzzles, and it's, the first hints tell her to go to the school, so she goes to the school and meets the kids there who are at the science room.
Burning a Bunsen burner, which, by the way, another thing that we noticed is that everyone is like always just like walking into the school at all hours of the day, and we thought that was
Yeah,
kind of
they
odd.
were, for whatever reason, they could just kind of come and go as they pleased at the school all throughout the whole break. So so she goes to the school, meets with the kids,
Goes
they
to the
give her the hint.
hospital.
She figures out the hints that tell her to go to the hospital. She meets with the cousin, and the nurse friend of hers.
And then she
and they give
goes
her another hint. She figures those out and goes to the firehouse
firehouse where he is.
where he is and her dad's friends are. They give her the final letter, and it says, basically like, I want to be with you. I hope you keep me in your thoughts. And each one of these scenes had like it
Christmas
was a Christmas
past,
Carol themed.
Christmas
So it was like the first one was
present,
past,
Christmas
present,
future.
and each one had a letter to her in addition to the clues that was like, hey, help,
Yeah. So, anyways, they end up together, of course. And he's like, oh, yay, you're pre-med. And she's like, well, you can't call me that because I actually finished med school. And he's like, oh, we'll think of another nickname together. So he's going to go to Prague and do his movie. She's going to go to Boston, finish her residency, and then they're going to be together.
Yeah. So that was the end.
That was the end.
It was a very different Christmas, like Lifetime Christmas movie, because it didn't actually follow your typical paint by numbers, these randos show up in a town, fall in love immediately kind of plot, which was kind of cool.
And they kind of made fun of themselves in it, which
Yeah.
I appreciated. Because, like, we would say something like, what the hell, like, da-da-da. And then they'd be like, oh, da-da-da. And yeah, it was good. Because it was making fun of itself, too. Which I appreciated.
Yeah.
So I really liked that movie. I'm going to give it...
Rating time.
I think I'm going to give it 6.7.
Interesting.
What about you?
I think I'm gonna give it an 8. I feel like it was one of the best Lifetime Christmas movies that I've seen across the past several years.
Because the good thing about
was-
it also...
Yeah, there
was
was
that-
a lot of good to it.
Okay, so since they did have a history together, it's not like, oh, I met you 3 days later, we're in love, this, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And also, it wasn't like, oh, I have to give up my dreams of being, who I want to be, living this big life. It was like, no, we can still be together and do these great things. And then afterwards, we'll
Yeah.
see what happens. And I like that. The one weird thing, well, not one, but one of the odd things. So the reindeer games, the annual reindeer games are always to benefit like a charity, I guess. And so this year they were benefiting the hospital, but you don't pay to play, and like there's no like contributions. And then at the end of it, they didn't even show what they were giving the hospital. So that was kind of odd.
That's just filler stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need a line there. But yeah, it was an enjoyable movie. That was my thoughts on it. I thought it was very much one of the best that we've seen so far,
I do too.
which is good because, man, some of these are rough. But yeah, that's all
And-
I've got to say about it.
Yeah, so it really resonated with me. It brought a tear to my eye in a good way. I like April Kepner's character, and we give it a thumbs up.
Yep.
Thank you for watching.
Bye.